right, Nina Barnett, CEO and founder of Grooop. You are an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur. At one point, you were a college entrepreneur. Also an actress and a comedian, and probably many other skills we don't even know about. But why don't you give your quick overview of what you're working on, maybe tell a little bit about Grooop, and then kind of dive into your journey and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Grooop when I was in college. Like you said, I think I was 18, which is kind of funny, but I was a sophomore in college and really just had this idea and this vision for a company and a brand that could make safety more accessible and more fun to college students. And I really wanted to see that vision come true. I was honestly hoping at first that somebody else would just do it, and it didn't happen. And so I kind of said, I don't understand why I wouldn't do it. So I was thrown into the entrepreneurial world. Definitely didn't see that coming, at least in college. I was at UNC Chapel Hill and majoring in physics and acting. And so I kind of had my hand in every possible type of group of people, I guess. I really was on both sides of the spectrum, and just kind of wanted to see what it would be like to start a company to see this through and really just improve safety on campuses. And that kind of got me thrown into it. And then now I usually live in New York. I haven't for the past 4 or 5 months. But I am in New York running the company full time. I am in a couple different incubators with it, but I'm also doing stand-up comedy in New York. So I definitely am a little bit all over the place. But I like to be in high stress situations. I like to work on a bunch of different things at once. So in any given day, I'm working full time on Grooop, writing a song, writing jokes, just depends on the day, really. So that's a little bit about me. And I can sort of just jump into Grooop and the journey with that too, if you want.
Please. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, I think the most quotable line in any article ever written about Grooop is that I started it because I was the mom of my friend Group, which is true. And I really just wanted to make something that was fun because safety was really approached from the perspective of either parents or administrators, or something really tragic had happened. And I wanted to create a company that put safety into an everyday conversation and put it into more of a positive light. So that's what I sort of set out to do. I was taking classes at UNCW one summer, and I started looking at a bunch of different ways to make this dream come true, whether it was an app, whether it was more of just an online platform, whether it was training, and really settled on wanting to create an app that was free for students to use, that made safety more accessible and fun and appealing, because most of the time safety is really boring and kind of just seems like a leash and really only attached to worst case scenarios. So I wanted to restructure that conversation. So my sophomore year of college, we started working with Smashing Boxes and started to research what other safety apps were out there, started to look at just any and everything we needed to know to figure out why other safety apps weren't working and to figure out what campus really needed. And really just researched, I guess, for the first 6 months kind of, and then went into a beta testing phase with 5 different colleges and looked at, how are people acting on campuses? What do they need? What kind of apps are they using? What are they not using? What's working, what's not working? And then launched it in June of 2017 when I was living in New York for the summer. I was working at a boxing studio for some extra money. And then we hard launched it that fall and have really just been growing it since. So, spring of 2018, we expanded into the international market to really look at how we can help study abroad kids. And that was a direct result of me studying in London. And, I all of a sudden couldn't use the app. And so I realized this is something we kind of need to be able to use with international numbers. And so really expanded that for people traveling, and then from there really maintenanced it for the next year. And then we've been working a lot on our service contracts, which is now really focused on universities, corporate HR, and field workers to make sure that we have the accessibility to not only train and certify people in terms of sexual harassment training, but also be able to give a free tool to students or to employees and not invade anyone's privacy. So we've really been focusing on that. And now we are, kind of a year out of that. And so I have been lucky enough to be working through a really cool incubator with Vital Voices, and they help I think there's about 30 of us, and there's 30 women that are social impact founders. Some are nonprofit, some are for-profit. And so I obviously fall on the for-profit side, but we have all been kind of working together as just a group of women. And that's been really, really helpful. I've been in that since last October and have been doing a lot with that. Have been doing a lot with the Female Founder Collective, which is a really, really amazing group of women started by Rebecca Minkoff. And just, doing a lot of pivoting, it feels like, during COVID. So I think during COVID, we focused a lot on what can we do for the greater image of safety, and what does safety really, really mean in terms of the greater definition, not just physical safety, because obviously everyone was, sitting inside their house. So physical safety was kind of on the back burner, and it was more of, keeping your mental health safe, keeping your identity safe, making you feel comfortable in any place. And so we've really been focusing on that. And I think one of the coolest things that's kind of come out of COVID is that we now have a partnership with a company called Black App, and we're really focusing on safety as it relates to fighting racial injustice as well, which has been really, really exciting, and being able to see that come to life and see that it is a very natural way for our company to go in and to be able to be a tangible ally and support not only people of color, but also supporting another female founder is really, really exciting for me. So that's the super long-winded answer of what we're doing now.
That's great. No, that's awesome. And congratulations on all of that. What gave you the confidence? So one thing I heard was you saw this problem and you kind of wish there was a solution. And this seems sort of like entrepreneurship 101, and you want to scratch your own itch and nothing's out there. And, oh, why don't I build it myself? That, I'm getting old now. So I'm like losing touch with like, what did I think about when I was in college? I know I started a few companies. Most of them were total flameouts, but I'm just trying to think, what gave you the confidence to just say, I can do this. I'm going to start this. I know how to what were even like next steps, and how did you get from this is a thing to, I want to make a potential business around that?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I think I've always been a little too confident in certain things. So I think that it was just one of my characteristics of my personality that I was like, well, why wouldn't I be able to do it? And I think that's something that I learned just from being a woman kind of in the STEM field in college. I have constantly been, proving myself, things like that. I think that's something that a lot of women deal with in general. And so I think that that was something that I kind of already had in my head of, well, I definitely don't want somebody else to invent it if it's this good of an idea. And so I think the biggest part of it, and you see it in the name of our company and in a lot of things that I do and a lot of the groups that I'm part of, but community is so important. And I think even in college, just having a network of people that are encouraging and are, uplifting those dreams and ideals. I think that, because I was in physics and in acting, it's two groups of people that it's very far-fetched jobs and very far-fetched kind of careers. And so I think that just having both of those groups of people, I have a really, really supportive family. And, honestly, it was something that I think any great company, if you actually have such an amazing idea or you're really, really solving a problem, it's kind of like, okay, duh. I mean, why does this not exist? And so I really relied on being a college student. You can get a lot more people to answer your phone call or answer your emails. And so I relied a lot on that. And I really just went first to my dad and just said, hey, do you know anyone in the tech space at all? And he honestly was like, no, not really, but maybe some of my college friends or something might. And so I reached out to one of his friends and kind of said, this is my idea, please don't steal it, I guess. And he said, you need to just start looking to see if you want to code it yourself, if you want to have a student help you, if you want to have another company help you, whatever it might be. And really spent the greater part of 8 months figuring out exactly what I wanted, what the mission of the company was, what ideals were non-negotiables, and what things like really I wanted to be part of the company, and just kind of ran it from there. I think, a big part of my personality is just I've always been the youngest. I'm 5'2". I've always been pretty small, and just I always have been kind of able to just see past, okay, just because I'm young or just because I'm small or just because I'm a girl isn't really a viable excuse for why I couldn't make the next best company or the next best thing or get a good grade or whatever it might be. And I think that that's, something I lead into being a stand-up comedian. That's something I lead into relationships I have with other people and who I interact with. And so I think, the biggest part is just, I've never been someone to doubt myself, but I think also I've never really thought to not pursue something like that. I've been really encouraged by the people around me. And that's why I think it's so important to surround yourself with people that are going to, talk you off a ledge if you're doing something that's really not a good idea, but at the same time will encourage you to take a risk. I think is probably where I got it all from.
Yeah. And so one of the themes from other conversations is knowing your story. And so what I heard you say was there's always been maybe external factors that would place doubt on you. You were young or small or a girl. I'm small. And you've consistently had to overcome those to the point that with the help of your community and your tribe or whatever, you've had enough success overcoming those that you've built the confidence to consistently do that. So, as other people, the point of this podcast is just to have these conversations so that someone might pick up something along the way. And many people, we end up getting into that story piece. So as other people are thinking about this, like, oh, what's my story? Like, why do I even feel the way I feel? Helps you understand, A, what your own inside strengths are, but B, where some blind spots or where some weaknesses might be that need to be overcome. If you're, oh, I've always doubted this because of that. And then you can ask yourself, why do I doubt that capability? Another thing, you touch on a lot of different elements that I think are important too, which is how do you overcome when you have these setbacks against you? You have a strong community. And so and thinking about access, like you're at a good school, your family was willing to help, like you're in a good social group, and others might not always have that, and what are steps they can take. And then, kind of the mindset too that you touched on, which is, I don't know if it's still cool to call things millennial or not, but like millennial, like project-based work, like, hey, I've got this going on. I've got this going on. I'm a whole person. And in my whole self, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also a comedian and a woman in STEM and many other things, a friend, all this. And they're all maybe not equally important, but they're equally important in some regards. So I just sort of covered lots of landscape. If you want to take any one of those and run with it, please do.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to a couple of those things, and I'll try and remember them all. But I think,
yeah, sorry about that. I'm
first,
really actually not good at this, but I'm trying.
No, it's okay. I mean, no, and it doesn't matter. But I think, one of the things, well, first of all, apparently I'm like Gen Z, like very at the top, which is hilarious to me. But I'm I guess the TikTok generation. I don't know. But I think that one of the biggest things is it is so dependent on your personality. Like I've always been the kind of person that I want to do every single thing possible. But I know people that are so good and so passionate about one thing, and that is the best thing about them. And so I think that, first of all, it's okay if you're not doing a million different things and you're a young person. It's okay if you don't start a company when you're in college. But I think that, one of the best pieces of advice I've always had is not to be afraid of a mentor, even if that mentor is your age, or even if that mentor is way older or in a totally different industry. I think that that's something that's been really, really helpful for me. And the other helpful piece, like kind of in line with that, is you'd be amazed who wants to help. And so I think, that kind of speaks to, people that, I was so lucky and, blessed to be able to have all these resources kind of in line for me and still have them today. And I think, it's something that there are people that are willing to have a conversation if you just reach out to them. They're willing to help. And I think now more than ever, people are realizing that there is just not a lot of access for women, and there's definitely not a lot of access for people of color. And so I think that it's, a really cool turning point in 2020, just to see that, and, it should have happened a long time ago, but I think people are really, really willing to help, and being able to just take the initiative and take those actions to speak to someone and, say, hey, this is my idea. I would love your feedback, or, hey, I would love how you started your company, and what, because I think, especially even me, I speak at high schools, and I speak, at colleges or at organizations or clubs or whatever it might be, just to be like, this is how I started my company and I'd love to help you. It's not like I can sit there and give them the best advice of their life, but I think that just showing people that it's totally normal to be either a female in the space, or it's totally normal to have an idea when you're young, and want to actually capitalize on it, is, I think normalizing a lot of these things, it's what helps. But I'm trying to think of what some of the other questions were, but I think that, one of the main things that I've always looked to is that, there are people that may seem scary. Generally, I think that, I don't really get afraid of people, which is a pro and a con. But, and so I think that just being able to just say, hey, I'd really like to talk to you about your company, or I'd like to talk to you about your idea, that's extremely helpful. And I think also just doing things in careers or jobs or whatever, or just doing things that you maybe wouldn't have thought to do, honestly, it helps me as a person. And I think, I always try to lead with, like, how can I make someone else smile today? Or how can I make someone else happy today? That may not be that I'm giving someone flowers or anything like that, but it might just be like, hey, I helped one girl realize that it's okay to be the only female in her physics class. Or, hey, I looked at someone and, just smiled. Just things like that. I think that just leading my life that way helps in every single aspect of, career, of anything else. And surrounding yourself with people that aren't like you is the most important thing, because yes, I love being with females and that's really, really great. But if I was just surrounded by females, that's not very helpful. If I'm just surrounded by white people, really not helpful. And so I think that just being able to surround yourself with someone that maybe has the opinion that you hate, or being able to surround yourself with someone that's totally different from you politically or whatever it might be, is super, super helpful in just understanding the world around you and understanding how you can give back, even if you're not, running a charity or something like that. And I'm sure there are other questions that I missed, but.
Oh, no, this is great. I could see someone being, maybe not even young, but someone afraid to start because of some of the challenges, whether it's they don't have the built-in network, or they haven't had success with that before. They haven't seen others in their network have success doing stuff. And you just did it. Seems like when you say it like that, it's so easy. Like, oh, you're just not afraid of anything. You'll just ask people for help. But obviously you've had some setbacks, just like stiff arms or shit that's happened to you because people have, hopefully not been intentional, but maybe, either conscious or subconscious bias towards women or to young people. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and then how did you deal with those in a constructive way, or not constructive, actually, either way, but how did you deal with those?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, on one hand, as glamorous as it sounds to be like, ooh, I started my company in college and I was thriving and then full time and moved to New York, all this stuff. It's like, well, I gave up a lot of my social life in college. I didn't give it all up because I think that that's really, really important, and being around people that make you happy is important. The amount of investors or types of people that have been like, wow, that's such a good idea. I love safety and I think that safety is so important, and then say like, bye, it's too many to count. And so I think that, for me, it's always, been kind of a struggle being not only a female founder, but also a young founder, because a lot of people are like, oh, so this is a project, you did it for a class. And I was like, no, I'm in physics, so no, I did not do this for my class, and definitely didn't do it for my acting class. So I think that that was always a bit of an obstacle to overcome, to kind of prove, okay, this is actually something that's viable. This is actually something that could make someone and myself and whoever a lot of money and make a social impact. I think I wouldn't change a thing with what I studied at UNC, but it kind of sucked being a girl in the physics department, and I think that I'm someone very outspoken, and I will speak up and say, hey, this person got this opportunity and I didn't, and that's not okay. But I also know girls, like half of them that started the major with me didn't finish the major with me. And so I think that, the biggest thing is you don't have to be super, super extroverted and annoyingly talkative like me to have a good idea. Because I think that, I can talk someone into a wall practically, and I love to talk and I'm not afraid to talk. But I think that, I have friends that are founders of companies and they are so introverted and quiet. And it's so interesting because their approach is totally different. And I mean, my freshman year roommate got so much done, is so smart and intelligent, and she's still one of my greatest friends. And she truly could sit there for 2 hours while I solely talked, and she would probably have the more impactful part of the conversation. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, you don't have to be this super, super outspoken, whatever person. But I think that, for me, there were a lot of times where I kind of sat there and I was like, is this a terrible idea? I mean, should I go into banking? What am I doing? And I mean, I did all the interviews. I went through tons of interviews right after college, and then, decided, okay, why would I do that? I have a company that's just doing well, and we're in incubators and we're doing all this stuff. But, there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, am I even doing enough? Like, I didn't stay up until 4 a.m. today. And, I think it's just, you have to take a step back and figure out what is fulfilling you and what your purpose in life is, and not just basing on success. Because if you're just basing it on success, that will never fulfill anyone. But I think that for me, it's okay, I'm going to take a week off to go climb Kilimanjaro like I did last summer. I was like, I hope the company doesn't tank. And, it's me and one other person. So it's one of those things where I was like, but that's for me. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made. But I think that there's definitely been moments where I'm just like, wow, this person or journalist or whatever it might be is literally talking to me like a 5-year-old, and not to mention insinuating that I don't really know anything because females aren't in this space. And, I didn't realize a lot of that until I talked to other men and other male entrepreneurs. And I think that's another reason why it's kind of important to have those conversations. But I think also, women are all about, like community and building and really, working together, which is amazing. And we work together so well. But I think also there's something to be said for being able to say, like, this is exactly how much money I make. And, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm investing in and this is what I'm following, because guys do that. And, you know, they're able to know exactly if someone with their same experience is making the same amount of money, whereas a girl may just not have even realized it. And so I think that, you know, for me, having people just explain the discrepancies, and not in a bad way, has been really, really important to me to just realize, like, okay, these are things that I may have to fight a little harder on. And also, you know, it's much more important for me to lift up other people than push someone down just to prove a point. And so I think that's, you know, been a big part of anyone we partner with, anyone I want to work with, anyone that I want mentoring me, is making sure that they're not just trying to talk down to me, because it's definitely happened in numerous scenarios. But I think that, you know, learning from those moments, writing those moments down and figuring out, like, okay, so if I'm pitching to, you know, XYZ investors, or I'm pitching to XYZ journalists with a new press release, they're probably going to ask a totally different question than they would have asked a guy. And that's fine. But just knowing those things in advance and figuring out those things, and, you know, still leading with, okay, I want to treat these people with grace and kindness, and in a way that they walk away saying, wow, what a, like, stand up girl, and what a great, you know, just like human being, rather than, okay, I hate these people for the way that they're treating me like a girl. I think it's, you know, just the way you kind of position yourself on the earth in general, and just making sure that you're doing stuff for yourself, but you're also recognizing that sometimes it may not be exactly how you wanted it. And I think a big thing for me too is I can't even imagine, you know, I obviously have been privileged my whole life. I, you know, like, am someone that didn't have as many struggles as a lot of other people. And so I think that even women have to work on the fact that, yes, we have to fight to prove that we're good enough or whatever it might be as a woman. But I think also it's like, okay, well, once you fight that fight, make sure you're fighting that fight for other people and for people that have less. And because, you know, you can't just fight one fight. You can't just focus on yourselves. I think focusing on other people is the way to always lead any type of life decision.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You did cover a lot, and I'm super thankful. And that's inspiring. And you know, if people listening to conversations like these take stuff away, it's that, you know, you don't have to wait until you've reached some pinnacle of success to have a mindset of helping encourage others. Like you said, you give talks at high schools, or you just talk to people, or you engage with people. You also said, you know, your awareness of some of the biases that have been kind of placed against you when you're in conversations have come to mind, and you write those down and come up with ways to try to overcome them. What, you know, what are the thought that came to mind was, you know, what are ways that you've turned the, you know, oh, that's great, is this a project, or oh, that's cute, or something, you know, that mindset where, you know, someone's like immediately kind of like, yes, I listened, but this isn't serious, into taking you seriously. And some of that, what comes to mind too is like, you'd rather a serious no, like, you're not interested, in why. I'd rather know that than like be sort of like patronized, or you just, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But what are the times where you said that? Because that's great. So step one, you're aware, hey, this might happen. I've kind of seen this, and now I'm going to, you know, process it. But then step two is, well, how do I actually overcome it? Because I still want to get this money and have this,
Yeah.
and show this person at the end of the day that if you give me money, you're going to get more back, and it's the right decision.
Yeah. So it's actually funny. So through the Female Founder Collective and you know, a couple other things, they have taught me a lot of stuff, so much stuff. And and even Vital Voices as well, you know, like, they have women all over the world that are doing social impact work. And so hearing from them as well. But one of the main things is, so when men are pitching to investors, they're generally asked a promotion question. So how are you going to make this the biggest company? How is it going to be the next unicorn? Whatever. And with women, we're asked prevention questions. So why do you think that Google is not going to take your app? Why do you think that someone else isn't just going to build it faster than you and better than you and blah, 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 blah. So one of the things that I was taught, and I did not know originally, is okay, when asked a prevention question like that, respond with a promotion answer, because that's the question that they actually want to know about. And they, there's no way to know that Google's not going to take over. And, there's no way to know that someone else might not build it better. But, by me responding and saying, well, we're going to make this the best app and the best service that's possible for the country, for the world, or whatever it might be. And also being able to say, and I'm the best person for this job because I am watching it in real time. I am part of the user, I'm part of the demographic, and not to mention I'm phenomenal at selling this. Then they're like, okay, great. And so but I would have never known that. And so I think that, there's other times where I get, sometimes, for example, I've had certain journalists, I've had certain people just say, okay, so there's this and this about the app, and how does this work, or how does safe zones work, or something like that. And if you download the app, the first thing it asks you is to set up a safe zone. And as much as I'm more than happy to talk about exactly how the app works, what my favorite features are, what users' favorite features are, and user stories, things like that. It's always funny when I can tell that someone clearly just didn't even download it, and they didn't. They're just kind of running with they need a female story, and they need to put that in there, whatever it is. And so my response is I'll usually just be like, well, did you download the app? Because I just want to make sure, and we can call back in an hour. And, I'm very graceful about it. And I think but I think there's also something, you can be graceful and you can also be strong there. You don't have to be, I think that a lot of times people think, okay, well, if you're going to be a strong woman or whatever, you can't look cute and you have to be really intense and you have to blah, blah, blah. And there are some awesome women that first of all are super attractive and they are leading the world with grace, but also you don't want to cross her path. And I think that there's just this misconceived idea that you can't be harsh or strong or whatever word you want to use and also lead with grace and forgiveness or whatever it might be. And so I think that that's always been a thing for me is, okay, when I need to be stern, I'm going to be stern. Because in general, people just don't think you're going to cross them. And a lot of times people just think, okay, women are going to back down or they're going to cry or whatever. And I'm the first one to tell you, anytime a teacher confronted me in pretty much pre-K through 12, I cried. Don't know what it was, but I would cry every single time. But I'm also will pick up the phone and tell someone that they are not treating me or an employee or whatever with respect. And that's not acceptable in our company. That's not something we stand for. And I think especially in times like this, with anything going on with racial injustice, or if someone is just saying something or doing something that is not promoting unity, I'm the first one to say, okay, I'm sorry, then you don't need to be a part of whatever I'm doing. You don't need to be a part of what I stand for. But I think also I want someone to leave a conversation with me and say, wow, that inspired me, or wow, that person has a lot of passion, or she really, changed the way I viewed this, rather than, okay, she was really scary. And so I think that, finding that perfect crossover is hard. I haven't found it, but I think that being able to lead both ways and just leading with kindness, I mean, who knows what will happen to every single person. I think 2020 is the best representation of that. We literally don't know what could happen tomorrow. It seems like there is a new crisis every single day of 2020, which is slightly funny, slightly absolutely terrifying. And so I think that it's one of those things where it's why would you waste a day being just a complete just mean person when you can be kind to someone and get stuff done. I think people think they're mutually exclusive, and they're not.
Yep. Yeah. I will be the first to admit I'll cry at a sad commercial. It just happens. And then separately, yesterday it was something on the news, just like the mail-in ballots this fall are gonna like create the most fraudulent election ever, and also strain the U.S. Postal Service. It's
Like,
already like 300 billion or $1 trillion in debt. I'm like, oh my God. Does that
yeah.
mean like now there's going to be an election? We're already in a bad like political climate
Like,
and it doesn't even get solved. And it's just like, wow, this could be the end. Seriously, I need
yeah.
to like get some land and go live on that shit for
Yeah.
real. But back to what you're talking about, I'm sort of interpreting, but what I heard you say, or I want to ask you about this, do you connect being a woman? That's an external power source, knowing your power. Like, how much do you connect to that to give you extra drive and extra motivation? Like, you already have I don't know if it's underdog because you're, small and young and a woman. So, that's an underdog mentality. I'm paraphrasing, but now, you want to model the way for others, and it's cool you want to lead the way by saying you can be successful, you can be strong, you can be assertive and like cute or pretty. Those words sound funny coming out of my mouth, but, and so sorry for butchering that, but you know, how much of that is external? And I'm saying like external, but I'm almost picturing like literally that's just a power source, right? So someone's like, you could say that it's stacked against me, right? Like, because I go into these meetings, these dudes are like, oh, that's cool. Tell me why you won't fail. Or like, I mean, I hope, there's plenty of things I could think of that could be occurring where it's like, okay, well, how does this work when like you have kids, and you're like, oh my
Hmm.
God, that's just terrible. And just
Hmm.
doesn't reflect the content of what this meeting is about. And so like, that's a problem. That's the odds are stacked against you. How much are you like leaning on that to like, be like, man, this is my power and I'm owning it. I'm using it to give me extra fuel to overcome some of those.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
mean,
think about
I
that as a
think
metaphor? Is that even the right metaphor here? Because it sounds like,
kind of, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would say, okay, so I think on one hand, it, it's a time where all of a sudden people are like, ooh, we really don't invest in females or people of color or, especially women of color, blah, blah, blah. And so all of a sudden people are like, crap, we need to find companies to invest in, whatever. Because it's not like they were any less of an idea. It just wasn't happening. So on one hand, there's kind of that event. I mean, it's the same thing with stand-up comedy. I'm usually one of two females on a 10-person set or something like that. And so I think that, you know, I can take advantage being like, hey, you need a girl on your set because it's not like kosher these days to not have one. And that's wonderful. But I think, the other way to look at it, and one of my friends, Sage, actually, who runs a company called Future for Us, and they help careers and help elevate careers of women of color. And she wrote a piece either for Forbes or something, and she writes really well. And she was sharing something with us recently about how the term like girl boss is not necessarily the right term because, it's just a boss. It's yeah, I mean, like boss girl, like whatever. I love like the graphics that go along with it because I like aesthetics, but I think that, it's something where it's like it's not a girl boss, it's just a boss. Like there's not a reason it's different. And but I think, one of the really, really cool things about women is they work really, really well together. We don't want to necessarily be in intense competition with each other. We don't want to push each other down, but we work super well together. And I think, that's something that I have been able to draw on with Vital Voices, with Female Founder Collective. And, I did a series of interviews for our company during quarantine in, April and May, and talked to a bunch of different women from tons of different industries. And I talked to a woman, I'm trying to remember who it was, but I talked to a woman at one point and she said, yeah, we have a completely female run team. There's like 13 of us. And I'm sorry, I think our fax machine is ringing. I didn't know it could ring. But basically, I was talking to this woman and she said, we have a 12-person team. It's completely female run and every single person in the company is pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, how are you going to go on? I mean, I truly was like, because that is how society teaches us. It's like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, the second a woman gets pregnant, it's just is over. And it's like, no, no, no. First
Right.
of all, that's not how it works at all. But it was so funny because even I was like, oh, that's what was put into my mind.
Right.
And that's how I was raised. And so I think, changing the narrative on that, first of all, obviously I'm nowhere close to having kids, but I think that, one of the things for me has been drawing on the community of women and the power of the community of women, and drawing on the fact that, yes, I am someone that loves to prove a point. I love to prove people wrong. And I think that that's, always been a driving force for me, but I don't think that has to be for everyone. I mean, I think that, do what you want to do, not because you're proving someone wrong, for sure. But I think that also it is a chance and a time that people can really step up right now. And, as much as I would love to say I can just go from the bottom to the top and be this amazing boss and do all these things and be this strong woman and have this community and everything and do everything for females, like that would be wonderful. But I can't do that without males. Like males aren't just irrelevant to, and so I think that, there's so much incredible opportunity for males to support females and to help them because, they have been sitting in a lot of these positions for a really long time. So they do know a thing or two. And I think that that's something that women know. And I think that, just being able to normalize the term that, yes, this woman is technically a girl boss, but she's just a boss. She is the CEO. And I think, yes, this woman is doing this and she's making this much money. It's like, great. She's probably still not making as much as a guy yet. So keep fighting. Don't just publicize that. And so I think that, the biggest thing for me is just drawing on the power of community and drawing on the fact that I'm happy and I'm healthy and I have a great family and great friends and great people around me and, have been giving amazing opportunities. But, as much as I want to draw on that power, I personally also draw on the power of being able to, help people. I'm mentoring a college entrepreneur right now who honestly, like her company is making way more than mine definitely did in the beginning. So I'm like, it's kind of funny that I, at first was like, I don't know, like maybe I shouldn't be in like mentoring her because I don't know if I'm the best advice. And then kind of had this wake up call that was like, okay, well, actually, I was in her shoes and it'd be great to just hear from someone. And so it's been a really, really cool entrepreneurial mentoring experience, I guess. And so I think that, drawing on helping others and drawing on the community is more what I draw on than just, okay, proving a point and whatever. I mean, I definitely do that. That's drives me many, many times. But I think, when you root things in something that's a little more giving, it has a more lasting effect than just proving a point. Because once you prove the point, that's all you got. And
Yeah.
so I think that I try and draw on that a little more.
Yeah, that's great. And what do you think is, or what do you think about the balance of it's up to you versus it's up to others, right? And so what I mean by that is one thing that's great about the time we're in is at least there's an awareness
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of people, I guess, not everybody.
Yeah.
So we can know. I just also was thinking about something funny when you're talking and like males aren't irrelevant and it's like, my wife's at home running her business right now and we've got 3 young kids and like I definitely feel irrelevant. Sometimes it's like, oh shit, like, okay, well, you're taking care of them, you're running your business, like what am I doing? I hope I'm helping. My relevancy is like fell off a cliff. Maybe once, another 6 or 7 years when I start learning to drive, I can teach them, but I'm not even a good driver. So anyways, I was just like kind of laughing on the inside. But what I was saying was, yay, we have an awareness, right? And so we've all been packed full of these biases that some people care to unpack them, other people want to fight it and be like, no, it's fine. And that's, wrong. And hopefully that would be kind of clear. So at least many people want to, relearn stuff, I guess. Where do you think the balance is? This is not like from your personal experience or what do you want to do, but just as you think about it globally, like, so you're an inspiration. I'll just tell one story. I had a call with this guy this morning and I was like, one of the reasons we're going with you for this project is, we felt like you wanted it and you're hungry for partnership. And we asked you about the team and we really were impressed by the team because I know the guy and I know him and we met like, I think playing golf. And I was like, I almost didn't hire you, which I thought was, someone else was running the evaluation. They were the top recommendation. I was like, I had a knee-jerk reaction to actually not hire you because I started getting really freaked out about it being like, wait a minute, is this just me like giving some other like white guy the deal because we played golf together? That's like the opposite of everything that's good in this fucking world. And that's how you don't do stuff. But I told him that I was like, it was important that we met the team and felt like there was a good representation of thoughts and diversity of people and ideas and as well as the commitment to partnership and the fact that we know each other through this project was an accident, right? I mean, it's like that, or that we know each other like through golf was an accident, which makes it even more yuppie, and so like it was like I didn't want to like make it a demerit, but like I almost kicked them out of the running just because I was like, if I accidentally did that and I went with them because of that something subconsciously, that was crazy. But I was like consciously almost like downgrading that potential vendor because of that relationship. Anyway, so some people are aware, right? And others, and they still fuck up like me, of course. But what do you think is for you, women entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, any people of color that are entrepreneurs, anyone that's got uphill battle against an existing like systemic bias system, whatever. I'm not a good word person.
Okay.
What's the balance of like, you need to change them versus they need to change themselves? And how do we all start to, so I'm even thinking about like I don't know if anyone's ever going to listen to this, but like the old white male listener, and they might hate listening to it, hearing me talk, but I want them to kind of know, I mean, it is up to them to be like, get their stuff together, look at their portfolio, look at their stuff, that perspective versus your perspective. So people, I mean, I don't want people to come up and be like, man, I got to change everybody. That'd be stressful. I'd be too stressed if I had to go change everybody, right? And knowing I have to change myself is also stressful too. Like, what else do I need to change? Like, I can overthink these things. Give me your perspective on where you think that balance is for us as like a community in a society.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the, biggest things is the female candidates, the, Black candidates, the, women of color candidates, whatever it is, they're out there. Maybe it takes like one extra step because they're not in a direct network or whatever. And, it doesn't have to be like, okay, we're hiring this person because we need a female, like blah, blah, blah. But I think that, there are people that are either A, better or B, just as qualified as others. And it just takes that extra like effort. And so I think that the biggest thing, and I think that a lot of people are doing this really well, is just saying, okay, where did we not look for this? And I think, it's something that a lot of times, for example, there's the whole unpaid versus paid internship debate. And I think that, one of the biggest things is there are so many people, and especially people of color, that can't do an unpaid internship. That's just not going to work. They have to make money. They have to be doing this. And so all of those candidates are just swept away. And so I think that, it's one of those things where it's just taking a step to think, okay, am I even offering this job? Am I even positioning this job or whatever it is to a wide range? And I am not the perfect person to like answer this question. I mean, just growing up like with the amount of like privilege that I've had. But I think that, it's something that like what our community can do is, okay, yes, it's great to be like, oh, we need to have more females and we need to have more people of color and we need to do this and this and this. And I want to make sure that I'm a tangible ally, whatever. And it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of things you can put on a checklist and do. And there's a lot of trainings you can do. And there's a lot of things you can read and all this stuff. But I think that, taking an actual risk and actually just maybe positioning yourself or maybe doing something or hiring someone that wasn't the obvious choice or wasn't the well accepted choice is what people are going to have to do is just being uncomfortable is, I guess, my best advice. Like I said, I definitely don't have all the answers on this. I'm working on this. This is something that I have not done well in the past. And so I think that, one of the biggest things I think from, the male to female perspective is being able to, connect a female with just as many people as you would have connected your male friend. And even though, I have a couple girlfriends that are in very corporate roles, and they, have said it's hard because at my companies, even though they're not doing anything wrong, I'm being paid the same and all this stuff. It's a different community because I'm not sitting there and I'm not going golfing with them. They can't make the same jokes around me. And so I think that, I'm not saying, wow, make your life this strict, boring, awful scenario, but I think, it's one of those things where it's a lot to just say like, wow, or share a post and say, wow, this woman is doing a great thing or whatever. But it's another thing to say, hey, I just invested in this female founded company. I just, shopped from a female founded company. I just invested in this, Black owned business, or I just, shopped from that. And so I think that it's one of those things where it's like, there are very tangible things we can all be doing. But I think also just positioning ourselves in a way, and positioning, especially for males, white males, whatever, I think that it's something to be said for just going one extra step and seeing, okay, maybe this person wouldn't have even been introduced to this opportunity, or okay, did I make sure to go to a network that's really not my direct network? But I think, no one's going to have the perfect answer, and I don't, but I think that what we can all really do is just think, okay, here are the things I'm educating myself with. Here are the things that I want to do tangibly. And I think, females especially, like, we've been fighting for this stuff, and I'm very young, so I know that it's been a lot easier for me. But I think that, maybe taking an extra meeting with a female, or maybe just, just doing something that might be that extra step, but not treating it like, oh, all right, I gotta do something for the females. Like, I gotta do it. Like, it's, Wednesday. On Wednesdays, we do something for the females. Like, no, that's not the stance I really want. I don't think that's what any woman would want. But I think, positioning more of like, wow, what a freaking great candidate, what a great founder, what a great CEO, like what a great person, blah, 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 is so different than just being like, what a great female founder, or what a great, and I think that, it's awesome to be a female founder. And I'm always like, I'm a female founder. That's the hashtags that I use on every post. But I think that it's much more important to be like, we're just a founder. We're just as qualified. And it's not, if anything, we've probably worked harder. So I think that, just understanding that and realizing it might take one or two extra steps to find someone that may not be in a direct network, because, it hasn't been very infiltrated by females or by people of color. And so I think, it is going to take an extra step for a while. And, but that's the way that we all kind of have to do it. And that's something that I'm at least doing. But I mean,
Yep.
also, what do I know?
Oh yeah. Well, what do any of us know? So, and I think, and that represents kind of an interesting, I don't know, not dichotomy, but it's sort of, because we don't want to put labels on young entrepreneur, female entrepreneur. You want to just be an entrepreneur. But yet you still want to say hashtag female founder, because of the positive power that gives other people that are in your community, and that gives inspiration to others who, because of the reasons of, you have some biases against you, and you're not, we haven't gotten into the network yet. So like, you're encouraging others. So, I think that's interesting, kind of as it's not really like a dilemma, but it's something starting with awareness. So people, what makes the world better, awareness, know that it's happening, be listening, be able to be uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable even. And then those conversations are happening, and then we can get to where we actually want to get, which is, investing on the merit of the business, investing on the merit of that founder, regardless of, age, gender, race, etc. But like that's sort of, I mean, unfortunately, seems several steps away. You know, even today, but today is not. We haven't solved it, right? So
Yeah.
this could be, you know, a 20-year effort of incremental improvement. All of us sort of, you know, just work it. Just I don't even know. I can't even think. I mean, if I was to apply one system to everything, it's like a system of awareness. Because at least
Yep.
you can start there, and then
Hmm.
you know, if you fight it, boom, you fail the system. But if you're aware, it doesn't mean it has to be fixed right away, but it can, you can start working towards that. Because ultimately, yeah, I mean, the best, you know, ideas should get to the market, and it shouldn't be, it got to the market because you're a white male Stanford grad, or it also shouldn't get to the market arguably because you're a woman. And, you
Hmm.
know, it should get to the market because it's the best idea. And you, regardless of you, know your demographic, you know your audience, you know your customer, you know your
Hmm.
product. And so I guess as we, and that might be totally off, but I think that's directionally where the world is going in a good way, and that's good. Where are resources? You mentioned the female founders collective. Can you join, apply? Or I don't want to like put links to something that's like, wow, it's actually super exclusive. No one can get access to it. Where are there content articles? I mean, the one about the question bias was huge. Like, and I didn't mean this whole thing to be about like, you know, the challenges of being a woman entrepreneur. I want to talk about your story, your journey, and it's going well. You've had challenges, and obviously are also inspiring others. But real quick before we get off that, what, you know, where are there links? Are there resources where, you know, people can go and read and say, ooh, you know, like that question, but I mean, that gave you a response. So now not only did you know that, you anticipated it and you were ready to overcome it, regardless of
Hmm.
knowing that that person was likely going to have that bias and ask you that dumb question.
Yeah.
You defeated it. So how can other people get these cheat codes?
Yeah. So, Female Founder Collective, you apply on their website. I was lucky that I was kind of one of the earlier members, but it's really, really inclusive and great. And they have just like so many different resources. I've been to a in-person workshop, things like that. They have a ton of events. Everyone's willing to help each other. So I think the Female Founder Collective is one of the greatest things ever. Additionally, um, this is obviously more exclusive. It's an application process, whatever, but any social impact founders that, I believe they coined the term, you know, at the tipping point in your company. Um, I think that Vital Voices, the incubator they do, the leadership incubator they do with Tresemme has been so valuable to me this past year. So I think that both of those are incredibly helpful. For UNC students, I did the Adams Apprenticeship, which I thought was really helpful. I still am really good friends with a bunch of people from my cohort, things like that. But I think, you know, in terms of, I mean, there's Facebook groups. You can join Facebook groups like Create and Cultivate, and, you know, Girls Who Code, and all these other things. You know, there's tons of different ones. There's tons of different STEM groups, women in STEM, things like that. But I think that, you know, it's also important to make sure you're part of co-ed groups, and you know, even if you're the first girl in it, whatever it might be. But I think that Female Founder Collective has really, really been, obviously it's just for founders, so you do have to have a company or a business or something to get into that. But I would say that's probably been the most valuable to me. And I'm trying to think if there's like anything else that I'm forgetting. I have done some stuff with Girl Boss and met some really, really cool people through that as well. And then I think it's just looking into kind of your local city stuff to see if there's anything for founders, for entrepreneurs, for females, whatever it might be. There's usually some type of group of people, and I know a lot of it's online now, so I'm sure it's even more accessible. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think those would be like my main things.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about finding a peer group and how that's important, and also seeking out mentors. Both, and those are separate, but both are very important, and anyone can do it. It's easier said than done, though. And your peers can evolve over time as you evolve. But starting someplace just helps with experience sharing, storytelling, being able to differentiate, what was a bad experience because it just was, and sometimes shit happens, like, you overslept versus what like really isn't right in the world. And I mean, damn, I wonder if it's like before the internet or what, but what was this like? How did we, maybe the odds were
Yeah.
stacked against everyone to ever overcome any sort of systemic kind of challenge, because like no one could just share these experiences. But to get off of that for 1 second and focus on the company, and I've got to wrap, and I know you probably do too, because I've started us a little late, so my apologies. But how's it going with Grooop? What are you? This is recorded, so it's not like breaking news, but also you don't disclose anything that's super secret. But yeah, I mean, how's the business going, and what are you looking forward to here for the rest of the year?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a startup, so, business is great and terrible and wonderful and scary all at the same time. But, I would say, things we're really, really excited about. We're really excited about this partnership with Black App. I think it's gonna be really cool. I love their founder, Maureen. She is awesome. And so I'm really, really excited to see where that goes and to see how we can, position safety in a way that it really is accessible to all different types of communities of people. So very excited about that. It's probably the most exciting thing. And then I would say otherwise things we're looking forward to, we're going to be doing another round of funding at some point in the next, 10 months, who knows, everything changes each day. But so that's exciting. We're, excited to just sort of expand the team and get it going. But I think, the biggest thing for us is we've really, really focused on universities and how to keep university students safe, and our service contract plans and things like that have been really focused on universities. And I think now we're looking a lot more into, corporate HR, and we're looking a lot more into field workers like real estate agents, or, even delivery and whatever companies would be interested in that, and just being able to bring safety into areas that I hadn't originally thought about. And so I think, being able to expand that, get some new contracts with those types of companies, work with new people, I think it's going to be really, really cool. And I think because a lot of them will be more of our pilot contracts for some of those different areas, will be very interesting and also fun. And I think also really exciting for those companies to be involved kind of while we flesh it out. So I think that that's probably what I'm most excited about. And I think just seeing also, what the rest of 2020 is. 2020 actually is the most interesting. It changes so often that I'm very interested to see what that happens. Who knows where I'll even be living in the next 2 months. So I think that, just looking forward to that, looking forward to expanding our team, and to really looking into what brands and what companies want to be involved with Grooop and want to be involved with the Grooop and Black App partnership is probably what I'm the most excited about. And, moving back out of my parents' house, I'm probably excited about. So ready for quarantine to be kind of done. So wear a mask.
Yep. So, yeah, super successful entrepreneur, inspiring others, living at your parents' house. You may or may not be claiming yourself as a dependent on your tax return. I think, I don't want to start a whole new conversation, but when we sort of bring it back together and talk again, in this format, maybe later in the fall after, well, nothing's going to normalize. It'll only get worse before it gets better. But there's a whole part of your story that you didn't tell, which is, it sounds like, yes, challenges because of a lot of things, youth and systemic because you're a woman, and also because you're small. That's still so funny. As we're also digital, I don't know how anyone's size, right? But, and like, and I remember they used to teach you, like, frame the room when you walk in, like, I don't know, like square your shoulders to the audience for presence.
Superman.
Like, shit, do people even like do that anymore?
Yeah.
I'm just like sit up so I don't like throw my back out because I'm old.
I know.
But,
I'm in my Beyond hat, so that's like my really professional look.
It's also there. You have a really impressive level of perseverance too that we didn't even talk about. Obviously, you're starting a business, you're growing the business, you're B2C. That's crazy because B2C is like just acquiring users, serving users, like making sure they're happy with everything, with a revenue TBD strategy. And now you're starting to see traction with sales conversations. but this isn't like a month later. You know, startup journeys aren't like, oh, I had this idea, I worked on it in my dorm, and like now I'm rich, beep, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like Dave Chappelle, like overnight rich, right? Like sold the house. I'm referencing a skit.
Yep.
Like it's year. I mean, you're 3 or 4 years into it and having amazing traction, amazing partnerships now, right? And so
Hmm.
some of this is recent traction after many years of hard work. So I think
Yeah.
congratulations on staying with it. That's a big part
Thank
of,
you.
I think, what you're doing really well, and you know, for others to kind of hear that too. Like it's not just like push these buttons, get in this group, and then bam,
Yeah.
rocket ship. You know, I'm still waiting for the rocket ship. I'm 39, and like I've been doing this. I had like a real job for 3 years after college. So like, and I had some businesses in college. So I mean, I've however many years you want to say it, 20 years if you go back to when I was 19. Damn, is that 39 minus 20 is 19? Okay. Still waiting for it, right? So just plugging away, plugging away, plugging away. It gets ugly at times and gets sort of lean at times too, but you know, kind of get some breakthroughs. And I like how you're focusing on all these other positive things too. And you know, so that as you get traction, you're also, I mean, you're a mentor, like you said. I'm a mentor. This person's making more money than I am or than I was, but
Yeah.
there's still something for them to learn. And if they now level up, you had a hand in that, and you get to feel like you helped kind of the broader ecosystem and you know, world as a whole. So anyways, thank you for making time. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Do you want to leave any information for people to reach out if they have any questions, or maybe otherwise just plug website and social?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is getgroop.com. Group is with 3 O's. And yeah, the best way I would say to contact me is LinkedIn. I'm pretty responsive on there. It's just Nina Barnett. And all of our social media for Groop is Get Groop. And so if you DM any of those, someone will probably relay the information to me as well. So I will be able to see that. But I'm more than happy to talk to anyone, especially girls, but really anyone. And all of our information about partnerships, and if anybody wants any plans or partnership plans, anything like that, it's all on our website, and you can fill it out on there. But we're pretty responsive on everything, especially since everything's virtual now. But yeah, all of our social medias Get Groop. My personal stuff is all Nina Barnett pretty much. So you can just follow that.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, and yeah,
Yeah.
have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, you too.
All right. See you, Nina. Bye.
See ya.